Hi everyone, it's John with Gridin and Mobile Solar, and I wanted to share a little bit of information about charge controller voltage limits and the effect that temperature coefficient can have on voltage. Stay tuned. So here's a real world example of how quickly voltage can rise. I have two 395 watt panels here. Actually, one of them is a 395 and the other is a 400, but I use them for configuring inverters before I install them. As you can see, we have no sun. It's very cloudy and dark out today, overcast. So on the 395 watt panel, the VOC is 49.5 and the 400 watt panel is 49.21. So they're virtually identical. And the total VOC for the array is 98.71. Now let's take a reading and see what we are getting in this very dark, overcast day. So right here are the leads from those panels. And keep in mind it is a dark day outside and we're already approaching 91.8 volts. And there is no sun. Okay, so keep in mind that with as dark as it is, the maximum VOC of that array should be 98.7, and we're at 91.7. So we're only 6 volts away from maxing out, which means that if it's cooler outside, that voltage should actually rise up above 98.7 volts. So if you have a charge controller with the input voltage limit of 100 volts, and you put 100.2, if it cools down, you could end up with 110, 115 volts, and you'll have a fried charge controller. And that is why you want to give yourself wiggle room on the input voltage of a charge controller. So this is why it's really important to take into account the temperature coefficients of solar panels, because that voltage can rise, and if you take your voltage calculations right up to the limit of your charge controller, you can find yourself in a situation where you're burning up that charge controller. So it's not something that I would recommend messing around with. I always like to leave myself around 20 volts of wiggle room. And a lot of times, if you look at the manuals in these charge controllers, it will give you a recommendation of where you need your voltage to land to safely compensate for that temperature coefficient. So do yourself a favor, don't push yourself too close to the limit, because it's not going to be very much fun to have to replace charge controllers if you push those limits too much. It's okay to overpanel some charge controllers. You can take the wattage up over. Victron recommends you can overpanel by 30%, and that excess current will be clipped, but the voltage in most cases for most charge controllers is a hard limit. And if you exceed that, even by a little bit, it could just burn up. EP-evers are really bad about this. I've had to replace more EP-ever charge controllers on service calls than probably any charge controller that I've encountered so far. So they're really finicky. EP-evers have a few other issues too that I'm not really fond of, so I don't recommend those anymore. But some people really seem to like them. But I'm getting off topic. But anyway, be safe out there and watch that voltage and don't burn up your charge controllers. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that bell. Thanks.